Hello, my name is Alejandro Lescano, and I'm here in an interview with Mr. Tomás Escobar. Mr. Thomas, how are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm very fine, and you?
I'm pretty fine, but this was a horrible morning. Still doing great. Alright, so let's get straight to it with the question. So, Thomas, first of all, did you ever distribute any kind of child porn?
No, I think that that's uh, like a very serious topic to talk about. The children part is very dangerous. Obviously, the children deserve a good life, and all of this. So I never do that.
Alright, that's a very good answer, but remember that packs also are considered child porn. And if you ever distribute or resend some kind of this stuff, you're doing child porn and you can go to jail. Alright, so this is pretty dangerous. Remember, guys, don't send packs. It is illegal and it is bad for your health. Alright, so let's continue with the next question, Mr. Thomas. So, did you consider the internet sexual offense to a child like a way of sexual harassment?
I think that yes, this is because obviously internet is a very powerful weapon that you can use for bad things as this child porn, the distribution of this child porn. So I think that yes, the internet is used. I think that it can be in some cases considered as children harassment.
Yeah, that's pretty real because the internet actually, if we take the data from 1998, they were like 400 cases of child porn delivery. Meanwhile, today we are having around 45 million cases, and that's a very, very relevant data that we have to take, and it's well known by everyone. The internet is a powerful and a bad weapon in some cases. Alright, so next question. What apps or internet websites do you consider the most dangerous for child?
For child, I think that obviously in some cases it can be these websites for adults like pornography pages or things like that. But the most dangerous and that anyone says something about it are the social media. Obviously, in social media happen a lot of things, and because of social media, many of these childs get bad situations as no someone that can hurt them or things like that. Even as you say, the packs usually are sent by social media and things like that. What do you think about it?
Yeah, it's pretty true. Actually, in 2018, the 70% of all the child porn was only in Facebook Messenger, and the company were doing nothing around it. We are talking about around 12 million cases of child pornography in only one app, and that's a very, very, very worrying thing to think about a little bit. So, next question. Have you ever heard of a case of sexual harassment for child or child porn?
Okay, in personal, no. Like in my group of friends or family, no. Obviously, in the news, you see a lot of these cases because the war is basically so bad. I hate the war. Okay, no, not all, but there's a lot of bad people that these days. Yeah.
Yeah,
You.
we
What
can
about you?
see. Yeah, I heard a lot also in the local newspapers and the local news. You can see a lot of people like they are making themselves another guy. They say like, "Oh, I'm Cristiano Ronaldo. Please send me nudes." Something like that to a child. And imagine a child is obviously sexually attracted to Cristiano Ronaldo. So obviously he will send the nudes to Cristiano Ronaldo, the fake Cristiano Ronaldo. So it is very worrying about how our society works. As you said before, we have to hate the world. That's a very great option. So, how often do you see a child porn case in the news you told?
That's a pretty hard question, but I think that in the years there's not so much cases now because the people is tired of hearing that those cases. Like there's a lot, so that people doesn't want to talk a lot about those cases. But I think that I don't even see too much news. Sometimes I see the news like the most relevant for the country or the world. But I will say that like 2 months, every 2 months, 1 month. I think that's the average.
Yeah, it's like that they often, but actually, it is because the arrests around the topic are are not really relevant. You know, it was like a flat case. They are not really relevant, and the FBI, the local police, they are not really taking care of it. They are not really taking care about it. They are not really making arrests for the people. The police officers are not making the law at all around these cases because it's actually also pretty hard to find the sexual offenders to the childs in all of these cases. It's really, really hard to do it. All right, so let's continue, Thomas, with the next question. Do you know if the government is doing something to counter this situation?
Uh, I don't know too much, but that's obviously that the government has to do something. Obviously, sometimes you see like some campaigns, things like that, like some publishment of people and things. Like for example, in the street, when they say no violencia a la gente, things like that
Yeah.
that you see here in Colombia, and a lot of help because one of the most, I think that one of the most useful things to stop this children porn is the help of the young people, like your father, your mother, things like that. So there's a lot of help for those children in around the country, but I think that it is not enough.
Yeah,
I think that it's
very true. It's not enough. For example, here in Colombia, we have a number to call if you feel sexually offended, you know. But actually, this number isn't really working because out of the data, only like 10 persons a month use this number. So that's not enough to counter a situation of the magnitude we having like this, right? So let's go straight to the next question, which is, what do you think about the child's having cell phones?
okay. The cell phone has become very. I think that it's it's very important in the life of everyone.
It's necessary.
It's necessary. You need it for everything that you do in your life. Even in the school, you can go to the school without a phone or some electronic device because if you don't have it, you simply cannot do half of the works that you have. So it has become something very necessary in our lives, but also very dangerous. I think that it is good that the child and all of those things have the cell phone, they learn how to use it, but I think that there's a little bit of lack of like relation of the parents because the parents have to say more, they have to take more care about what their children do in those devices.
Yeah, that's pretty true. They are necessary for the daily life also in the school. You, a student, know as well, you as a child, because a child is considered from 0 to 18 years, know how useful a cell phone can be. But actually, it's pretty worrying how the child's around 5 years old, 4 years old, 7 years old are having their own cell phones. They create this social media. They create an account on Snapchat. They log in on Instagram. They're logging on Facebook. And as we saw before, Facebook is one of the most dangerous applications we can have in our cell phones right now. And these childs at all are having it into their own cell phones. And that's a very worrying thing, which we might have to think a little bit more around if the necessity is really that hard to make our child be exposed to this kind of application. So let's go with the next question, which is, do you consider a child more than 16 years old like a mature child?
In some cases, it can be yes, but it is very relative because someone with 16 can be the two very immature or very mature for their age. It doesn't depend on their age. For that reason, it is very hard, and for that exact reason, in some countries are at 21 years old, the people who can vote, drink liquor, and things like that. And for example, like here in Colombia, we have uh, that thing that the 14 years old can go to jail or things like that, you know, but they are not considered like adults or things like that. But I will consider that at 16 years old, in some cases yes, but in some cases no. I don't know. It's very hard to determine that.
Yeah, the society is so variable, but we have to take into account that in many countries also we have people being like um, being like a mother child at 16 years old only. They can vote at 16 years old in many countries because there is like no old people enough to do the votation, or the young people is kind of more. For example, in Switzerland is a great example for this of 16 years old, and in many countries they are developing politics to do that and laws. You know, also it's pretty worrying. Many much things around it. So let's go with the next question. How will you protect your child if, in a hypothetical case, if you were their parent of a case like this?
If I were in a case of this,
Like a child porn case. Like imagine if your child was like distributing his own porn. What will you do?
that's a pretty hard question because now in that point it's hard to know what to do. But I think that the principal is obviously talk with him, uh, make him feel sure he's safe with us. He can trust in us. But finally, I think that other thing that it's very important to do is that as I'm not an expert in this topic, is talk to someone that already knows a lot of this to help me help myself.
Yeah, that's very true. I will directly talk to the government and to the police to know how will I do to handle the situation. And our last question, last but not least, how will you react to this situation? What will be your reaction? You will be like very worried. You will be angry. You will be sad.
I think that worried and sad are the definitions for this case because obviously you never hope some of this for your child, for your son, or in, yeah, that's pretty hard. But obviously it is sad because that's like a child is pure innocence.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
you
that's
know,
facts.
and that's like a part that brings you life. It is very sad, but I think that with a little bit of strength, you can get out of that bad situation.
Yeah, I will feel like that too. So thank you, Thomas, for answering the questions. Thank you for the time, and see you later, guys.